In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse when he's talking about the appearances of the Lord Jesus Christ, he finally gets to the appearances to Paul himself. And he's off. What does he say? Verse 7. Then he appeared to James. Okay, verse 8. And at last of all he appeared to me also as to the aborted fetus. Someone who is not a fetus is not worthy of being called a baby. Paul was not worthy of being called an apostle. That's what he considered himself. Why? Verse 9, for I am the least of the apostles and do not deserve to be called an apostle because I persecuted the church of God. Okay, good. Paul, you recognize it that you were a screw up in the past. You were a legalistic religious type. But he does not get into subjectivity at that moment. He does not get into full of self-pity. Here, he is, in this moment, he's going in retrospect. He's thinking back about his past failures, and that can happen to us as well. So you can be thinking about something that you did in the past, something that makes you feel terrible, makes you feel guilty, makes you feel ashamed. Are you going to fall into subjectivity at that moment? No, you're going to apply grace orientation. Here, Paul, verse 8, I was the least of the apostles. In retrospect, he's thinking back. I am the least of the apostles. I do not deserve to be called an apostle. I persecuted the church. This is adversity right here, thinking. In his thinking. It can happen that you think something that produces adversity in the moment. So he's thinking, but is he going to become full of self-pity? No, he's not, because look what he says after that. But because, or on the basis of the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace to me, let me see the Greek. I'm not. But because of the grace of God, I am what I am. And this grace, pointing back to the grace, on the basis of the grace, this grace of his, which unto me has not become void, lacking content, out because he used it. So now he goes back to the grace. He's thinking back in the past, oh, I was terrible, this and that, but he does not fall into subjectivity. He is not in a mode of arrogance where he gets into self-pity. His grace orientation thinking is grace oriented in that moment of adversity. I was the least of the apostles, but he switches back to, but because of the grace of God. And so he remains level because he is applying grace at this moment, recognizing the grace of God and applying it. So with the result that here in this moment of adversity, he does not become full of self-pity or any of those negative emotions, which are arrogant, of course. And then look, let's go to the other side of the spectrum. But because of grace, I already said that. Grace to me, it was not without effect. And look, no, I worked harder than all of them. Now here's a moment of prosperity. He's thinking in retrospect as well again. No, I worked harder to the point of worked to the point of exhaustion than all of them, all the apostles. Okay, Paul, do not become full of yourself. You are an apostle. They are apostles as well. Don't get full of yourself now. Nope, he does not get full of himself because yet not I, but the grace of God that was with me. He's the one that did all the work. So now he switched to the other side of the spectrum. Now he's thinking about prosperity. How? I've worked harder than all of them. I've done more great things than all of them. Yes, and it's true that Paul did greater things than all the apostles. But is he going to get full of himself at that moment? No, he gets back to grace right away. Yet not I, but the grace of God. This is him applying grace orientation. But to apply grace as a problem-solving device, you need to recognize and know what grace is. You need to be grace-oriented. And so, Paul, I am nothing, the least of the apostles, but grace. I've done more work than all of these apostles, but grace. So he's leveled. He's keeping himself level at this moment. And our past verse as well, our passage, 2 Corinthians 3:5. Not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our competence comes from God. This is also grace orientation. Here he is talking about the great things, the prosperity, the results of the Corinthians being the letter and all that. Is he becoming self-righteous at that moment? He just said, this is such confidence we have before God. But nope, he applies grace. He's saying not that we are competent from the source of ourselves so as to claim anything for ourselves as our own. But it was God, but sufficiency, where is it? But the competency, our competency, is from the source of God. Grace orientation. Here he recognizes the great work that he's done in the Corinthians. And he recognizes that this serves as confidence. But then he gets to grace, to reality again. But it is not us. We didn't do it. This competency came from God. Grace orientation. Grace provision is what gives you power. Grace and the power of God work together. Part of God's grace provision is the power that he gives you inside the divine power sphere. The omnipotence of God the Holy Spirit, the omnipotence of God the Father, and providing everything through logistical grace. So you're going to hear me mention these two terms together, because part of grace provision is the power to execute the plan of God. This is competency. And so, let's look at, first of all, because let's look at the doctrine of law of equivalent power. We were going over that yesterday. Let's look at that right now, and then we're going to go over the law of grace. First of all, law of equivalent power. Because, why am I talking about power? Because the plan of God is perfect, and you must use perfect means to execute that plan. God is perfect, his plan is perfect. You are imperfect. Whatever you can add to it is imperfect. Therefore, you cannot add anything to the plan. A perfect God requires a perfect means of execution. Hence, we have God's omnipotence. You have to use his omnipotence, and this is grace, because he's the one that's doing all the work. You see how grace and omnipotence work together? Grace is the one that provides to you that power of execution. Point 1. Any system in life requires a power or authority equivalent to the execution of that system or plan. If you have a plan or a system, but you do not have the power nor the authority, you're going to fall short. And it doesn't matter how intelligent and how charming, how personable you are, it's not going to cut it. Point 2. Regardless of how great a person may be, he must have the authority and power necessary to fulfill a mission in life. So it does not matter how your IQ is, how great you are, your past successes, etc. You must have the authority and power necessary to fulfill a mission in life. And this means something as small as being a husband, being a leader in the marriage, all the way to being the executive of a great company, etc., or being a leader of a nation, a president. You must have the authority and power necessary to fulfill a mission in life. Point 3, every challenge in life requires the equivalent power to front and excel the challenge. Every challenge in life, you need equivalent power. And one thing about humility is recognizing that there might be a challenge somewhere out there that you do not have the equivalent power or authority to execute it. And so in your humility, you recognize, you say, okay, I'm not able to do that. I'm staying out of that. And how many times do we see people who do not have this equivalent power or authority trying to take on new missions and new challenges and new tasks that is out of their bailiwick? You see it in the workplace. You see those intrusive types that they're busybodies and they're crusaders and they want to change everything at the job place. And there they are, very implacable, walking up and down the hallway. And we need to do this, we need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it's out of their bailiwick because they don't have the authority nor the power to do so. They think they do, and their arrogance. They might surprise a few around who are dumb and are impressed by arrogance, but they don't have the equivalent power nor authority. Let me also emphasize that Even though you have in principle the authority or the power to execute a challenge, your decisions, arrogant decisions, can cause you to lose the power or authority. It can cause you to lose the moral high ground in front of your underlings. If you are a person with a position of authority, say you are a manager in a place, say that you are, I don't know, the leader of a family, you are the leader of a social group, etc. This is the realm, this is your safe realm, the realm of professionalism. Professionalism. Let's call it professionalism, or let's call it the realm of honor. This is your safe place. You operate from here. You have the high ground here. The moment that you get out and decide to execute or to function by means of a shady action, by means of an eye for an eye type of action, by scheming, by dropping low to the level of your underlings, say that they are scheming against you, they're talking crap about you, they're maligning you, etc. And if you decide to get out of your safe zone, the realm of professionalism, the realm of honor, you decide to get out by matching their same level of dishonor, you're losing the high ground, and you have just entered the realm that belongs to them. You have lost your position. You have lost the high ground for the moment. And when you try to get back into your high ground and call out that underling, that person who was being dishonorable, was not doing his work, etc., scheming against you, etc. If you match that person's energy, you get out and match that person's energy, it's so difficult to get back in there. How can you call back that underling and call him back to his office and say, John Smith, you've been behaving terribly, you have not been fulfilling your work, etc., etc. You cannot do that because you're the one who got out through a scheme. You're the one that got out and matched the energy through conspiracy. You're the one who also got out to malign that person, to talk crap about that person. You're the one who got out. You lost the high ground. And so, because it's so hard to get back in, then that other person, your underling, reacts. He counters you. He's one of those types that knows how to do something not so overt so as to get caught, but also not so covert so as to not hurt. He knows how to do that middle ground type of stuff. And so he counters you. And then as a result, you counter him. And then he counters you. And so you just keep going down and digging your own grave. And so once you keep doing that, it becomes very difficult to get back in there into the realm of honor, professionalism. It's a very sensitive subject. You have a position of authority, you have to watch out. A parent as well. If you're one of those mothers or a father, those fathers that wants to become friends with their children, there's nothing wrong with becoming friends. But when you emphasize becoming very cool and very friendly with your children, you lose that position, that high ground. You get out. It's very important because you see all these shows right now, Bluey and all this stuff, and you see the children doing whatever they want in a very cute way, very cute and innocent way. Doing whatever they want, and the parents are just like, oh, cool, getting out, trying to be friends with them. Not understanding that they're not there to be cool with the children. Oh, yes, they can, but that's not the primary purpose. They are there to train them and prepare them for life. It's a very sensitive subject. And you get out by doing that, by getting on their level. For the mothers that want to make lovers out of their children, I don't know who the hell told you to do that. You get out and you get on their level. When you do that and you lose the high ground, they don't see you as authority. And remember, authority is only legitimate so long as the underling recognizes it. Again, an authority is only legitimate so long as the underling recognizes it. Because once they refuse it, there's nothing you can do. You better pray to God and ask God to administer some punitive action. He has your back, yes, of course. If you're a mother and you decide to get in competition with your own daughter, getting catty with that person, with your daughter, trying to play the same games, you have just lost the high ground because you dropped down to your little daughter's level. So these actions, even though in principle you have the high ground, you have the authority, you have it, but your actions can get you out. So make sure you get back in. If you're a Christian, you're a believer, and you're advancing in the plan of God, and you're a manager, or you have a position of authority, well, guess what? This, what I just described, becomes part of your spiritual life. If you're a manager and you decide to scheme and match a person's energy, negative energy, through different things, what I just described, then you get out of the divine power sphere. Because you work and you do everything as unto the Lord, your job also becomes part of your spiritual life. So now we join this to your spiritual life. If you're a father or mother and you guys decide to get out by scheming or getting in competition with your child, etc., then you also get outside of the divine power sphere. You lose your position of honor in terms of your authority, and you lose your standing inside the divine power sphere. Better use 1 John 1:9 and get back in there.